Teachings of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. Explanation of evil. Questioner: why does a man have sinful tendencies? Master: in God's creation, there are all sorts of things. God has created bad people as well as good people. It is God who gives us good tendencies, and it is God again who gives us evil tendencies. Questioner: in that case, we are not responsible for our sinful actions, are we? Master: sin begets its own result. This is God's law. Won't you burn your tongue if you chew a chili? In his youth, a man led a rather fast life, so he suffered from various diseases before his death. One may not realize this in their youth. I have looked into the hearth in the kitchen of the Kali temple, where logs are being burnt. At first, the wet wood burns rather well. It doesn't seem then that it contains much moisture. But when the wood is sufficiently burnt, all the moisture runs back to one end. At last, water squirts from the fuel and puts out the fire. So one should be careful about anger, passion, and greed. Take, for instance, the case of Hanuman. In a fit of anger, he burnt Ceylon. At last he remembered that Sita was living in the Ashoka grove. Then he began to tremble that the fire may injure her. Questioner: why has God created wicked people? Master: that is God's will, God's play. In God's Maya, illusion, there exists avidya, ignorance, as well as vidya, knowledge. Darkness is needed too. It reveals all the more the glory of light. There is no doubt that anger, lust, and greed are evils. Why then has God created them? In order to create saints. A man becomes a saint by conquering the senses. Is there anything impossible for a man who has subdued his passions? He can even realize God through God's grace. Wicked people are needed too. At one time, the tenants of an estate became unruly. The landlord had to send a ruffian. The ruffian was a harsh administrator, that the tenants trembled at the very mention of his name. So you see, there is need for everything. Once Sita said to her husband, Rama, it would be grand if every house in Ayodhya were a mansion. I find many houses old and dilapidated. Rama answered, but my dear, if all the houses were beautiful houses, what would the masons do? God has created all kinds of things. God has created good trees and poisonous plants and weeds as well. Among the animals too, there are the good, bad, and all kinds of creatures. Tigers, lions, snakes, and so on. There is need for everything.